Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Monday morning live office hours. Just gonna trust that it's all working. It looks like it might. Looks like it might be working. If you are there, hi Jen, I see you on Instagram. Oh, and I see a couple of eyes on Facebook too, so terrific, terrific. I'll just assume that it's all working. And I'll try not to spend the first, oh, hi Brian, it's working, yay. Okay, perfection. It's all working. I'll just assume that the first, I won't take up the first 5 minutes going like, is it working? Just the first 30 seconds, that's all. That's it. Well, it's Monday morning, and I know it's a holiday in the States, but it is not here. So good morning, Gabby. Yay, I'm going to see you later too. Yes, so it is not a holiday here in Canada, so here we go. Opening with some office hours. As you may know, my name is Dr. Shannon Coates, and I am in a little town that is about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Oh, hi Jennifer! A little bit more north of Toronto in Canada, in Ontario, Canada. And I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Here we go. Yes, I am grateful to live and work on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabeweke, the Mississauga, and the Wendake Nyonwensiyo peoples. There we go. I finally remembered, to do a land acknowledgement. So, I am someone who works with voice teachers pretty specifically, and who works to develop resources for voice teachers to get voice teachers teaching even better than they already do, which is a little bit about what I wanted to talk about today. Normally on Mondays, I talk a little bit more specifically about like something to try in the studio. Good morning, Allison. Something to try in the studio. And so I am going to talk about that, but I also want to start with a little bit of a conversation around something that I was talking to a voice teacher about over the weekend, and that was something around this idea of, if only I was a better diagnostician, then I would feel like a more confident voice teacher. If I was a better diagnostician, I would feel like, or I would be a better voice teacher. If only I could have if only I could know instantly what's happening in the voice in front of me, and know instantly what to do, and have all of the exercises sort of at my fingertips and in my back pocket, and be able to like do this thing immediately. And then, I think that that's the main thing that is holding me back from being a fantastic voice teacher, a really effective voice teacher. And our confidence can really take a hit, here in Canada, for example, when your students maybe don't do as well in exams as in the Royal Conservatoire of Music exams as we had hoped they would do, or maybe they don't do as well in a NATS festival, or in a festival as we had hoped they would do, or maybe they don't get an audition, or something along those lines. So, or when, there's so many things where if our students aren't doing as well as, comparatively speaking, when we compare, if it seems like our students aren't being as successful as we would hope they would be, our confidence can really take a hit. And we often come back to this like, well, maybe I'm not diagnosing well, maybe I'm just, and that's the thing that is like not where I'm falling down as a teacher, right? Where's that? How? Because I don't know exactly what's happening. Or we hear, say, for example, we hear on an adjudication, and actually we were talking about this a little bit earlier as well in another form. Maybe we hear on an adjudication, or teachers, adjudicators say the same things about our students or something along those lines. And like I said, our confidence can really take a hit. And we come back to this kind of diagnostic thing, or often we can come back to this thing about, well, if only I was as good as so-and-so at being able to diagnose what was going on, and then if only I had a system or a bunch of exercises that I knew would work for this specific thing because I know what's going on in that voice. And we sell and buy courses for information that we hope will make us better diagnosticians, right? So I created the Vocal Instrument 101, which is an anatomy and physiology course, and there are lots of great anatomy and physiology courses out there, and there are lots of great textbooks out there that have sort of systematic. Well, Dr. Kari Reagan's book is somewhere around here on my desk. That's why I'm looking around. It's somewhere on my desk. It's the systematic, teaching the systematic voice. I can't remember what it is. And I see Karen. Hi, Karen. Karen Lane O'Connor's on here. SingWise, her website. If you want a wealth of information on how the voice works, whoa, that is a website to check out. SingWise is what it's called. YouTube and website, but YouTube channel is like, if you want just like all the information on how the voice works. So there's all of this fantastic information out there on how the voice works, and on how, like what's happening functionally in the instrument. There's lots of anatomy and physiology out there. And we take these courses and we sell these courses, honestly. We sell these courses sort of based on this like idea this myth, really, this kind of lie that if only I was a better diagnostician, if only I better understood what was happening in the vocal, thank you. Thank you, Meg. A Systematic Approach to Voice. Yes, got distracted there. Is the name of Dr. Kari Reagan's book, if you're looking for a textbook. So we base our purchase and our hopes around, a book like A Systematic Approach to Voice, or a course like the Vocal Instrument 101, or, doing a voice pedagogy course, especially something that's anatomy and physiology based. We sort of hope that if we do these courses, then we're going to be a better voice teacher because we understand how the voice works. And that may be true to a certain extent, right? The more we understand the anatomy and physiology and the function of the voice and how the voice works, the more we understand that, certainly that can inform our teaching, and that can make us better diagnosticians, for sure. That can inform our teaching. However, the more I work with voice teachers when I'm teaching anatomy and physiology, when we're working on anatomy and physiology, the more I hear, and this was a running theme as well through the interviews that I did last week with some of the original folks who were in the very first voice ped practicum that I did. This was a running theme through. The more I work with voice teachers in this way, in this sort of like mentoring kind of way, as I'm teaching anatomy and physiology, the more I hear, oh, this is so validating. Because in fact, I was actually doing it right, or I was doing so many things well, and I actually understood more than I thought. I just didn't understand the like specifics of what was happening, right? So I understood more than I realized, and this level of, did I say invalidating? I hope I said validating. Teachers say it's validating. It's validating, not invalidating. And so often the feedback is after, for example, taking the Vocal Instrument 101 live or working with me in a practicum, so often the feedback is, it was so validating because I realized that the information that I didn't have wasn't what was making me not teach as efficiently, right? Like, in fact, this information is actually just, I'm already a good teacher. I'm already doing good work. I already know quite a bit, actually. And this new information is just, bolstering my teaching. It's so validating to hear this information and to have this deeper understanding of anatomy and physiology. And so I wanted to just kind of say this out loud. Yeah, thank you, Elspeth. Yes, I wanted to just kind of say this out loud. If it feels like the reason that something isn't successful, or the reason, oh yes, exactly. On Instagram, sorry, KVT Vocal Tuition. I feel like I should know your actual name, but I don't off the top of my head. But saying, I always feel like I don't know enough of the sciencey stuff. Exactly, and you're absolutely not alone. There is this kind of trend toward really like knowing the science, the anatomy, the physiology, and this is not a bad thing. This is not a bad. Oh, Kirsten, hi Kirsten, thank you. Yes, so true, right? This is not a bad thing to know anatomy and physiology and to understand the voice science and understand, how the voice works. This is not a bad thing at all. It is, however, not knowing it is not a barrier to you being a good teacher, to being an effective teacher, to being a successful teacher. You not knowing this information is not a barrier. I'm here to tell you, it's not a barrier. So if you, and I'm here to tell you this as someone who, like I said, I have an anatomy and physiology course. I recommend people buy Kari Reagan's book. Like I'm here. I teach voice pedagogy, right? So like I strongly believe in understanding the voice as well and as deeply as you can, and understanding the fundamentals of how the voice works. I strongly believe in that as a voice teacher. We want to have that, as deeply as possible. But I also want to just say this. It's not a barrier. You not knowing how registration works is not a barrier for you being able to teach it. It's just not. So, might you be able to teach registration more effectively if you had a deeper understanding of anatomy and physiology? Maybe, but the knowledge of the thing is not the teaching of the thing. So we get so caught up and hard on ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves because we don't know enough. But you can't learn to teach well by reading the book. You just can't. So here are a couple of, I wanted to give a couple of practical ideas or things to think about. If this is kind of sneaking up on you, if this idea of, if only I knew exactly what was happening in this voice and I could like get it instantly, and I could, I knew exactly the right exercise to use for this person right now. If only I knew that. If that's sneaking up on you and that thought is causing you to feel like you might not be a good teacher or you're not as effective as you want to be, here are some practical things to consider this week. One. And I also just want to say, we also get a little bit caught up. We get a little bit caught up in, we can get a little bit caught up in, if only I was as good at diagnosing as blah, 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 right? As so-and-so. If only I was as good at, blah, blah, blah. Friends. I can't be as good at diagnosing what's happening in the Western classical voice as Lorna MacDonald is, who is my mentor and professor at the University of Toronto, as Lorna MacDonald is, until I've been teaching as long as Lorna MacDonald has been. I mean, yes, I'm pretty good, but there's zero expectation. I mean, like I would watch her teach and be like, oh my gosh, like how does she know that? Like right off she just knew that she had that information. She knew exactly which exercise to like pull out of her back pocket, and it like worked immediately. How? It is an unrealistic expectation. And also this like taking on of this guilt somehow, or this kind of you know, browbeating ourselves because we think that we're not, you know, we're not as good as so-and-so, but so-and-so has been teaching for however long. So just, yes. All right. Here are 3 things to consider. Okay. 3 things. 3 realistic things to do, or sort of things to do. 1, when you are working with a student and not sure exactly what's going on in with that singer, and not sure exactly how to like work with that singer, close your eyes and recreate or feel in your own body what's happening with that singer. So do a kinesthetic check-in with yourself. Whether you can actually create the sound that the singer is creating or not, doesn't matter. What would your body try to do? What does your be in your body and kinesthetically aware in your own self? What is my body? How is my instrument responding to attempting to create the sound, and or how is my body responding to try to coordinate in a slightly different way so that I am creating a different sound than what this singer is creating? So if you have this, hi Tracy, I see that you are watching. So if you have a singer in front of you who is doing something and you can't in your brain figure out what's happening, right? In your brain you're like, too much pressure maybe, possibly the tongue is doing something weird, jaw locked, maybe the inhalation was off, like whatever, right? You're going through all the systems, you know all the things, you're like, okay, I'm going to look at inhalation, I'm going to look at the tongue, I'm going to look at the shaping, I'm going to look at the pressurization, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? So you're going to look at all those things in your brain, and your brain is coming up with nothing. You're going to consider, I'm not saying that you will, consider centering yourself and going in your own instrument and figuring out what your own body wants to do. So does your body want to stretch the jaw a little bit? Oh, yeah, I want to get a little bit more yawn happening there. Okay. Does your own body are there gestures that are coming out of your own body as you attempt to make the sound that you're looking for in the singer? So I'm attempting to make this sound and like my body wants to do this, or my gesture, or oops, my chair, hit my chair. Or maybe I want to do some kind of movement in my upper body, or maybe I want to like stick my tongue all the way out of my mouth, or maybe I want to like, who knows? Whatever that gesture is, or whatever that inhalation pattern, or whatever that coordination pattern is, that your own body is trying to create. That's the one to ask for in the singer in front of you. Or try it. Try it. See what happens. Don't say, okay, so when I do it, I want to do this, this, and this. Don't say that. That's not teaching. That's you learning. That's not your student learning, right? Don't say that. Listen to me saying don't. Rather than saying, so when I do it, I feel this, 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 and this. Say, hey, what about using this gesture? Can I see this gesture? Oh, hi, Liz Jackson Hearns. What about this gesture? What happens for you when you use this gesture? What happens for you when you take an inhalation just like this one? What happens for you when you take, how do you experience, this is something that I learned from Liz Jackson Hearns actually, how do you experience, wait, I think I learned it from you, Liz. I could be wrong. How do you experience taking an inhalation with your shoulders moving? How do you experience? So get inside your own body, feel what your own body wants to do, have a kinesthetic observation of what's going on, and turn your brain off for just a second, right? Turn your brain off from like scattering through, okay, is it the breath? Is it the pressurization? Is it the tongue? Is it the jaw? Is it the blah, 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 blah? Yeah. Turn your brain off from doing that for just a second, especially if that's something something that you super tend to do anyway. Turn your brain off from that for just a second. Go inside your body, see what your own body wants to do in terms of coordination. So use your own self as a diagnostic tool. Okay, that's 1. 2. I've said this before in other contexts, in other lives, I think. Pick a set of exercises. I love Tietze's 5 vocal warm-ups. You can, if you just Google TITZE', Tietze's 5 vocal warm-ups, they will come up. I love his warm-ups for this. Choose 5 exercises that you're going to use with every singer. So you can use them 1 per day if you want, or you can use them like 1 per week, or that you're going to use with every single singer. Then use them with every singer in your studio and figure out which ones are useful for what kinds of sounds you're hearing. Make notes if you want. You're allowed. It's your studio. You're allowed to make notes. Make notes. So you have exercise number 1. I can't remember which exercises are which. He has straw exercises. Exercise number 1 might be straws. I can't remember. Or SOVTs. So use an SOVT sliding 2-octave slide with every singer in your studio. Or with every singer that you see on Monday. Or with every singer that you see on Tuesday. And see how that exercise, obviously you as the teacher are going to adjust it slightly for the singer in front of you, right? For whatever they do, you're going to adjust it slightly for whoever is working with you, whoever's working with you, right? You're going to do that. That's part of being a great teacher. You're going to do that. So and notice it though, make the observation, okay, how did I want to adjust this exercise for this singer so that it worked better for them? And then what's going on with that singer? How would I describe the sound? And then how would I describe the actual, use whatever language you need to use. How would I describe the actual difference? Start to build up a repertoire of exercises that when you hear that sound, whether you know what is creating the sound or not, so maybe you don't know why they're making that sound, whether you know what's creating that sound or not, the next time you hear it, you'll have the exercise in the back pocket. You'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. I use this exercise for this. Or at least it's been useful in the past. I could try it again. So it doesn't feel like, oh, what is happening in this singer? I know I've heard this sound before. And do I remember? Like, I don't think I ever quite figured out what was happening. Was that because of overpressurization? Was it because of the like blah, 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 or not enough pressurization, or like, blah, what was happening? Doesn't matter. I remember that when I heard this sound before, this specific exercise was useful in helping them to find a different coordination. And so now I'm going to apply it again with this singer and see how it works. Something to consider. The third thing to consider, you know what, I had a thing here that I actually don't want to talk about. I've decided I don't want to actually talk about that third thing. And plus it's like, I've gone on for like 25 minutes already anyway. So, or 20 minutes. So I think I will leave it there. So I'll leave it with just those 2 things, those 2 ideas. 1, get kinesthetic and ask the singer to do what you are already doing in your own body in order to change. Ask for what you want. Don't tell the singer, oh, yes, this is a third one. This is a different one than the one I had written down, but yeah, let's do this. Do I want to? Sorry. Just making decisions live. You're welcome. Here's my brain. Resist the temptation. And I'm talking to folks who are teachers like myself. So there are teachers out there and folks who are not external processors, and that's totes cool. Resist the urge to have an external processing lesson and to point out the things that are not going well. Resist the urge. Sorry, Jennifer, so much suspension, I know. Resist the urge to tell the singer what you think is the problem. And in other words, to put the problem on the singer. Here's an example. You think what might be the problem, now you're not entirely sure, but you think what might be the problem here, or where the miscoordination is happening. You think where that miscoordination is happening is because of tongue tension. Tongue tension is a big old subject, and so you have a suspicion that it's a tongue tension issue going on here, right? Okay, so that's your suspicion. The second you say, to a singer, you have tongue tension. We're going to work on it. The second you say that, and the second you sort of externally process what you think is happening, whether that's correct or not, it may be that they have tongue tension. The singer can't do anything about tongue tension. You as a student, if you think back, you can't do anything about tongue tension, right? You're singing flat. Okay, I don't know how to not sing flat, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be here, or I wouldn't still be singing flat, right? Or you have tongue tension. Okay, I don't know how to get rid of the tongue tension because otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? So don't put the problem on the singer. Also, this label will carry with them for the rest of their lives. I know, and we do this super without thinking about it, but the amount of times, okay, I'm going to give you an example from my own studio. I was working with a singer, very young singer. So like, I think they might have been like 8 years old at the time, maybe 7. Young singer, really talented singer. Excuse me, really talented. And by talented, I mean works really hard and really wants it. So wants to be a professional performer, right? Yeah, thank you, Liz. So wants to be a professional performer. Has a tendency, and keep in mind, this is a child. This is like a 7 or 8 year old child, right? This is a child, baby, small. Has a tendency when working toward a twangier sound for a more contemporary music theater sound, when working toward that twangier sound, has a tendency to go a little over nasal and sometimes to get a little pressurized. Perfectly normal. 7, 8 year old, right? Yes, they start to identify with the problem. Exactly. They start to think of themselves as a singer with tongue tension. Exactly. And then they'll go to their lessons with voice teachers for the rest of their lives saying, well, I want to work on my tongue tension for the rest of your life. That is the thing that you will want to work on in your voice lessons, right? 100%. So this is a child, right? So of course, sorry, scrolling back there, of course, there are going to be some tendencies there to like, this is also a hardworking, hardworking child, right? So of course there are going to be some tendencies there in that child to go a little over nasally. I'm not scared by that. That's fine. That's how we figure out how to be not nasally. It's fine. And to overpressurize a little bit. Have I ever once mentioned that? Did I ever once mention it in a lesson? Absolutely not, right? We worked toward it. We gave some things colors. So like, ooh, that's your like super, super, super bright red color when she was overpressurizing. And let's find your like hot pink. Can we find hot pink rather than super, super bright red? Perfect. And that changed it for her. She never, out of my mouth, did she ever know that she was not doing something as coordinated as she could be. Right? Out of my mouth? No, never, not once did that young singer ever know that. This young singer went for an audition with a local theater company, music theater company. You know what the feedback was? She really needs to work on her nasality. So now this young singer and the parent thinks that she has a problem with nasality. Very annoying. Very annoying. And I know that the panel, the audition panel, meant this with good intentions, and we all know where good intentions get us. Meant this to be like some kind of, I don't know. Anyway, And I've talked about before about, adjudicating and how we can really avoid being jerks and not being good colleagues if, when we give feedback, we assume that their teacher has already heard it and is already working on it, right? Like, if we just assume that, we will not give feedback like, you have to work on your nasality. We will give feedback like, appropriately developing voice here. Can't wait to hear when the twang is balanced out. Okay, sorry. So, when you're giving feedback, and of course, hear me here as well. Of course, there are times when it is appropriate to speak with your students, especially if you're working with teenagers and adults, about what we're working on, right? Of course, it's appropriate to talk about it. It's appropriate to say, hey, sometimes your twang gets a little bit unbalanced, and that's cool. We're going to keep working on it. We're going to work to get that balanced twang going on, right? Oh, yeah, feel free, Allison. Feel free to. Yeah, you are allowed to say that thing. However, be really careful about how we talk about, just like, if the thing that wants to come out of your mouth is, wow, that's a lot of tongue tension. Maybe you can say, hey, we're working to get things coordinated in there. We're going to find as much release in the tongue as possible for you, right? Say what we're going to do, not say what's wrong. So let's say what we're going to do. Let's say where we're going. Let's talk about how we want to find the balance and the coordination. And let's not talk about what's wrong. Let's not give the singer an identity as a singer that is, doing something wrong or has something wrong. Okay. Be kinesthetic. Check in with yourself as a diagnostic tool. Yes, keep working toward that balanced tone, right? Exactly. Let's keep working toward a balanced tone. Perfect. We all have inappropriately balanced or unbalanced. Unbalanced, that would be the word. We all have unbalanced tone at one point in our lives. Of course we do. That's part of learning. So yeah. Okay, sorry. Getting all sarcastic here on Monday morning. Excuse me. Be kinesthetic. Go within yourself. If you're feeling like you're insecure around your diagnostic skills, be kinesthetic. Go within yourself. Figure out what you want to do to change the sound, and then ask your singer to do that. Your singer. They're not your singer. Ask the student you're working with to do that, or the singer that you are working with to do that, right? Grab one set of exercises and just use them all day long. See what works with who, and then you'll recognize that sound and use that exercise again for the next time. Don't over-diagnose. Keep your actual diagnoses to yourself. Especially if they're especially if your diagnosis is leaning toward the thing that's wrong, right? Make your diagnostic or any kind of discussion all about where we're going, rather than giving the singer the label of what's wrong. 3 things to consider, especially if you're feeling like your diagnostic skills aren't like where you would like them to be. My diagnostic skills aren't where I'd like them to be. Yeah. We can being a great teacher has a lot more to do with how we observe, how we communicate, how we understand the learning process, how we support, the language we use. Being a great teacher has so much more to do with that, and with how we are, how we position ourselves in the studio, if you will, right? Has so much more to do with that than with whether or not we know where that specific tension is coming from. so much more to do with all of these other skills and all of these other wonderful things than with whether or not we know, registration. Pinky swear. I pinky swear. All right. I hope you have felt a little bit validated, more validated today from this little chat. And yes, I'm going to, this was a little longer than I intended, and there you go. Little more external processing than I intended. All right. Have a great day. Today is the first day. We decided that I'm doing a voice ped practicum right now, 3-week voice ped practicum for folks who have either done the Vocal Instrument 101. I think everyone in this particular practicum has done the Vocal Instrument 101. You're so welcome, Jennifer. So starting that today, 3 weeks, and there's only one American in the group, and the American was like, it's okay, we can start today, it's fine. So we're starting today. So here we go. Got a whole bunch of different time zones again. It's good times. All right, my friends, have a great week. Turning and now finish.